Alrighty, how's it going? It's been a little while since we've done a deck list review. Haven't been a lot of events, obviously, in the December to February timeframe, but we do have the results for the Winter Cup from Cardiff. This was a pretty normal tourney by most measures, but let's go over what it was. Generally, Winter Cups tend to be slightly more casual, but Europe did just one deck, single deck, standard best of one into a best of three top cut. So this is pretty representative of what I would expect the European meta to look like. And Europe has just a very interesting meta because I don't really think that it compares well to any other region. It's like the amount of Gigawall that I saw on stream, you just don't see Gigawall anywhere else these days. Like it's just a European thing, and it seems to be doing really well there. Um, I'm not really sure why the discrepancy. Like to me, Gigawall really should have such a struggle into Chaos, and maybe that like you just disregard the Gigawall and play Tyvis instead in those matchups. But that seems really risky, especially like in a blind best of one. That like you there are going to be games you're going to have to go back up into a Gigawall with no cards in hand, and like top decking a second like Gigawall or like you can hit Axstar and not have a card to play really seems kind of scary. And I guess I'm talking a lot about Gigawall, and I don't even see any Gigawall in top 16 here, but it showed up on stream a lot. The event was won by a mono water deck. This is my first time looking at a lot of the deck list for the event. And I mean, the first thing that really pops out obviously is the Dion Bahamut. A lot of water is kind of getting away from Shinryu. I think a lot of people have said that it kind of made the deck feel clunky. I would imagine Dion Bahamut would honestly almost make it worse, especially like a 3-2 line. We are on the Loporits. We could shuffle them back if we need to. We get the Luso to shuffle things back, but this is a weird one. Like I said, I'm really so big on if you're going to play a Primal, you can go 3-3 and make it less likely. Like, if we drew both of our Bahamutes before we draw a Dion, which isn't really that unlikely, you really are going to be hurting to find the Loporits. Maybe, like I said, the Loporits and the Artemisian are, really good. I think Artemisian is one of the most underplayed cards in the game. Only 2 copies of Realm as well to make room for it. Realm is so strong. I know that Mick Mull and a bunch of others have said, like, no, the one Atomos is, like, introducing dependencies in mono water that don't need to be there, but it's like, the worst thing that happens with the Atomos is you draw it and then you just do what this realm does anyway, right? Like the only downside is that like your Lena can be one card slower potentially, but we're on 3-2 here. It's a very interesting thing, and I say that Europe is like the only place that really is having this kind of success with mono water anyway. Like a lot of the best European players, like the Ryan Shens of the world, really have just stopped playing the deck altogether. Like I said, Europe just has a very strange regional meta, and there's not a lot that I really know how to like dig into this and make sense of it. Just because it's a very uniquely European thing. Yeah, 3 Witch, 2 Realm. Usually that's even backwards. You'll see a lot of decks are playing 2 Witch these days. 2 Lena. So we didn't stretch to make room for the crystal stuff. I've seen the decks go as low as 1 Lena, 1 Leviathan for that. The 3 Ash is court mandated, the 1 Gao, 3 Cucullin, 2 Cancelev, 3 6 Levy. On the monsters, 2 Piranha. Again, I think this was kind of the missing piece for the deck against like mono wind, so that makes a lot of sense. The 3 Apkallu, no Marlborough is a little surprising, given how like all in this deck seems to be on Witch of the Fens, and given that Europe loves their Gigawall. The 2 copies of Sahagin Chief. This card is so extremely like this is just Althea. It really is at this point. It's just Althea. 3 Blue Worm and the 1 Tros. Backups pretty standard, other than trying to make room for the Loporits over. Usually you see 3 or Astrologian, but with the Dion Bahamut, the Loporits make a bit of sense. Also, the draw 2, discard 1 Marrow Whip is non-standard as well, but makes a lot of sense, honestly, for the deck considering what Lena does. I could see this being just a really solid EX burst. 3 Thornton as well. Second place, we have a refia control list, or kind of more towards the mid-range side. Again, I always like strike these as like hard control when I build them. But one of the sentences that I remember, God, I'm trying to remember what the original context was. I think, oh, no, I remember what it was. It was a table 500, which is a stupid Yu-Gi-Oh show where people do really dumb things and send them in, and Streamer Man reacts to them, blah 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 blah. But I remember like there was one table 500 where the combo just kept going and going, and it's just, how did you find room for all of this? It's kind of how I feel looking at this deck. We have a copy of Chelinka in here. We have um, the more common now 218 rare arc, 110 each. I've heard this described as like building your deck to play against better players because only like it's always a mistake to put them on damage 3. It feels like with this arc, with like when you're not ready for it. And in those situations, like this arc is always really good, and the burst on him is a lot more impactful, especially for getting set up. I don't know. I just feel like the only having one copy of this so that it can be Zidane or go to damage, and you just like you lose that power play that the deck is so known for. Like especially if you start getting into Top Cut, where people know what your deck lists are. Interesting to see the full 3 Ferris as well. Like we're trimming 2 Bosch is wild to me. That is I've never seen that before. And the 1 Garnet, like I get the Garnet a little bit for colors, but man, Terra is so good in these decks. So we've shaved 1 Mist Dragon, 1 6-cost Leviathan. And our backups are definitely interesting. So we've gone for the 2 Claris in here. I'm not a fan of it, especially when we cut into Kryl to make room for it. It's like 1 Kryl, 2 Thornton. I could see like situations where we just have like a backup line that's like Claris, King Tycoon, Lena, Thornton, Tyro. And you have like 1 Warrior of Light backup, and your Refia is so hard to turn online. Like I'm not a fan of it. I like recognize the power though of like Claris, King Tycoon, Lena as just like you're almost there and you never have to worry about colors for the rest of the game just about, but not my preferred way of playing the deck. We compared to what I do for Limit Breaks as well, we've gone down 1 Luna Freya to play the 1 copy of Yuri. For Archelinka, it's fine, I guess. I don't know. Like Luna Freya, when you have 25 bursts, is so strong that I always find that like one of the most common game plans I commit to is like 2 Luna Freya plus Aaliyah or a Warrior of Light. But if you want to make room for the Yuri, I probably would cut the Vajrahara Wu, or even the Tidus, honestly. But I mean, like this deck is definitely really strong and really functional. It's a very different take on Refia from, like it's different from what I build, but it's also not like the KP style where I would like consider that to be just like a straight up mid range deck. Like this is like trying to shoot the gap in between them, and it makes some really interesting decisions. I might have to mess around with some of these. In particular, I really probably should find room for the 18 rare arcs in my deck if I can. Top 4, we have another mono water list. This one doesn't have any light in the deck. This is what I would say is a more standard like monster mono water. Like it's very similar to the Japanese list that you see coming out these days. Love seeing this many 3-evs, 3 Lena, 3 Witch, 3 Leviathan. Like this deck's going to be doing its game plan every single game. Again, I really love the 1 copy of Atomos. I would go down like 1 Lena or 1 Witch for the 1 Atomos. I know I'm different from Europe. In the backups, some different stuff. We do have the 1 Hilda, always just a really solid card. 2 Sarah, I've seen this a lot more commonly. The idea is like you don't really want to draw your 3rd Sarah, so even though she's a really strong card, she searches herself if you get to the late game. She searches your Lena if you need her. Two is totally fine here. Again, the Marrowweb showing up here is interesting. Three copies of this Waka. We really wanted to push that EX burst count up between the Wakas, the Marrowweb, the Thornton. Uh, Really solid. I like this build. I think this is like probably what I would start with for Mono Water, compared to I think the one in first place seems a little bit more tailored to the metagame that he was expecting. It seems like, um, and then the other top four list was Knights. So 33 Knights in the list. We are on the Miwas trying to potentially cheese people. No copies of Renoa. That's a little bit scary, especially if you ever get to top cut. You kind of really invite your opponent to Amaterasu the Gorilla more readily if there's no risk of it being flickered with a Renoa. Um, the rest of the deck looks pretty solid. I am very interested to see three copies of Ice Physalis. That is definitely not common. Also, a lot of the North American lists will play a copy of the backup Garland as well. None of those in the list. We are on trade-in Meath, so I guess going up on the 2 cost was the idea to make sure we have access to Laswell more often. You'll see some North American lists play like Izael in that slot to make it more common. But like without their 5 cost, it really is hard to search Gorilla. The 3 Lena, I love this in the deck. Just like the way out for a lot of decks into Knights is just to try to burst out. Lena says no. You have the Cucullens in here to turn off Sid Randell so that I can play. And the court mandated 3 Larsa. Larsa is really a card that I'm kind of wondering if he is long for this world. It seems like every deck that's playing like 5 backups is always on 3 copies of this idiot. Or like 6 backups that are all meant to search for your forwards. They're always playing 3 copies of Larsa. Really, really strong card. And it's like, I would hate for them to like take out backups because I think anything that makes players play backups is smart. But man, Larsa is enabling all of the least fun decks in the game to exist. And I'm not really sure what the lore or logic on him is. Like, usually, yeah, I don't know. Um, Interesting to see 3 LB Beatrix and not like a second Surges or something. Zach as well is also a little surprising to me. Not really sure what. I guess you can round up the Garland pings. I guess that makes sense. Yeah, okay. Zach makes more sense now that I'm looking at it. Um, yeah, I mean, this looks like a pretty standard Knights list if I had to give a review on it. Um, Definitely will be doing its thing relatively consistently. Like I said, the only thing that I don't know if I think I would try to find a room for the 1 copy of Renoa, maybe over one of the Phasalises. Alright, let's kind of go a little bit through the top 8. So we have Lightning, Water, um, Chaos. Interesting to see Roche. I have not really liked Roche in this deck compared to running Estinian. I see the logic behind it, but um, to me, Estinian allows you to like kind of suspend a threat. It's like your opponent has to deal with your active board, but then like next turn you're putting in a huge threat. Like Roche gets chumped for days, which I guess like if you have like the Chaoses, maybe you like don't care that he gets chump blocked. Interesting to see the Fujin, like the Cypher join the Fujin and the Raijin. I do really like that actually. Being able to recur them puts us in a lot heavier of a lightning focus, which is interesting. I'm not sure. It'd be an interesting thing to see how it plays out. We're really low on chaos, I'm noticing. Only 9 job chaos. Usually that's 12. Shave down 1 copy of the 16 legend and 1 copy of the backup. I wonder what the logic on keeping the backup is if you're going to do that, not just going all in on the forward. Like I feel like the Earth Chaos is going to lose a lot of value as well when we're this low on dark cards. And maybe we just don't mind, yeah, because we're only on the 2 lightnings anyway. It's going to be really hard to use this. So this is just meant to be a chaos you can use as for like to pay for other stuff. Um, I have no idea what to make of this backup line. I'll get to that in a second. Um, I know JFB plays a really interesting build of chaos. Like has a lot of like theories on this deck. So I'm curious, like what some of the like two Larsa, two Ezel is very strange to me. As is like the one Hilda. Like Hilda's fine. I don't think that that's a bad card, but I don't think the burst is going to come up, and I feel like a lot of the situations Hilda's good. I would rather play like an Alize, especially as lightning heavy as we are. We could play like the Alize, and then we could search a chaos off of this one. I feel like it would just open some lines for us that we don't otherwise have. The three Lena, I think this is going to be more and more common. Like, it beats the thing that beats the deck at the end of the day, and that value can't be overstated. I do wonder, like maybe the goal in this deck is to like play Roche, play Lena, and like try to chip in, and then try to like do chaos on like turns 2 or 3, and like kind of hold the chaos over your opponent's head for as long as possible, so they can't really commit to the field to get the Roche off out of play. But like if they do commit, then like the chaos can kind of come down and really like destroy them. My only concern with that game plan is that like if you're against some a refia deck or something, aren't they just very happy to play backups for 3 turns like while you're trying to scare them? And then I mean I guess like if you do that, maybe you get them to damage 3, but like if you could like damage 2 off of like Roche backup, and then like you're giving refia a lot of time to find outs to what you're going to be doing. More copies of Mist Dragon, especially on the low chaos count. Copies of like Lev 6. They can get to the 4 backups like to make refia alive, and refia can spin the chaos as it enters. Uh, Very interesting. We have a mono ice. Interestingly, no copies of Clive or Ifrit in this. I would have thought that would be kind of a shoe in any mono ice deck. Um, Also interesting to see 7 cost Kurasame. I've seen this go both ways. I really like 7 cost Kurasame if you're on Une, but this list isn't on it. A lot of very interesting stuff here. We have a full set like mini knights package, so we like can go aggro if we want to. Same with like the Vincent, the Sid Randell, but like you have like the late game with the Kurasame and the Kate Sith. Um, Seems very matchup dependent which direction you'd want to go. Uh, Even Shiva, uh, a full 2 copies. I haven't seen this card really played ever. The Lady of Frost. 3 Physalis, like again, like that's signaling like a slow game plan, as is like the Shantoto. I might have to give this a shot sometime. 2 Emina, kind of the same logic as the Zale. Makes the Harley plus the Edward a lot more like feasible. If you don't have to like search for Torgal, I kind of like that actually. It's a really neat idea. You go like turn 1 Emina, search Harley, and then turn 2 play Harley, play Edward. Your opponent's discarded a card. You have 3 backups on field, and then you get to threaten to cancel summons for the rest of the game. So that's kind of neat actually. 2 armor, 2 juggler. Everything else makes a lot of sense. Yeah, this is like a weird hybrid of like the control ice and like the aggro ice. Uh, what is this? This is a warriors deck, even up to the Tulians. Interesting. So 3 Tyvis, 3 Une, because we're playing enough Earth to facilitate that. The 2 copies of Ward. We have Garnet to help facilitate our Earth Splash. 3 copies of Mog. So we're trying to. Oh, this is really obnoxious. You can go like turn 1, play Larsa, get Tyvis or Une. Turn 2, play Tyvis, play Mog, play Une. And if they don't answer like the field, you can just lock them every single turn for the rest of the game with Une, Ku, Sith, Mog, and just play Mog off of Tybus every turn. That's really funny. Like, there's a lot of decks that will fold to that. Um, we have our Earth Warrior as well, so we can kind of back up fix us for the tricolor. This cloud is also a warrior, that's right. Red's a warrior, so yeah, we're like really in on the warrior package, even for our backups. Really interesting. Lots of like the really strong summon package, love that. Yuzuki can be really obnoxious for decks to deal with. A full 3 copies of Bosch as well, so we're going to be really consistently accessing our game plan. This is cool. I like this. And then we have a Knights deck. This one is playing like Clive plus Ifrit at a 3-2 line. Fair enough. Still no Renoa. Apparently Europe doesn't seem to really believe in that. 29 Knights seems lower than I would expect. Oh, we're just on no backups whatsoever. We do have an out to Sid Randell, because you can go Clive into Ifrit. Not a lot of outs, but that is an out. We are on the Rain, because we're on Tyvis, right? Yeah, Tyvis, Axstar, Rain. Like, that's the logic there. Yeah, so we're on like a Tyvis line too. Interesting. We're on Lena, which is surprising, as our only other backup. So it's 3 Larsa, 3 Lena. Like, so it's not surprising. Like, Lena obviously makes a lot of sense. The way you're going to deal with this deck is going to be to burst out, but only 1 copy of this Beatrix, probably because we're going to lean in on the LB more often. Huh. I'd be curious how this Rain actually is in the deck. Like, it's not a bad play off of Axstar, especially if you ever want to push for lethal. I would feel really bad pulling it off of a Corilla, which would scare me with it, because it doesn't really fit the MO of what Knights is doing. We only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 2-cost Knights as well, so we're not that likely to hit 2 2-cost Knights with Corilla, I feel like. This is going to be really aggressive, though, and yeah, the Clive Ifrit is really strong, especially if you could like consider, even in some matchups, going like Larsa for Clive, play the Clive, going second, swing in, draw 2 fresh cards. Then next turn you go right back up to enough cards in hand where you could even consider going Ramza Corilla off of the backup. Even something like warping a Ramza to get out of your hand and then going in with Clive could be really strong, honestly. I think that's another option. Like, even going first, I think you can do... Yeah, you can even do that going first. Like, Clive, warp Ramza, and then you use the Clive to try to dig to find your Corilla. Interesting. Yeah, that might be something to mess with in some testing later. Alright, let's go kind of quick here, see if there's anything that kind of catches my eye. Again, mono ice this time. This is an Une build, but no copies of Clive Ifrit. Kurosame obviously very strong here. Terra guarantees you get 2 summons for the Une, which is really good. Both Kurosames in the deck, actually, which makes sense. The thing about Une is she raises the ceiling of the deck so high that, like, you don't really need very many forwards. Like, if you can Kurosame every single turn, like either Kurosame, you're probably winning that game every time, right? Or like if you flicker like a Xenos or a Rufus, right? You're gonna win a lot of games doing that. So then it just becomes a matter of not dying before then, which I would be a little afraid of because we're only on 1 copy of Jill and there's no Clive Ifrit in this. Yeah, Numo's a really surprising one too. Really weird take on mono ice. Numo is like not even in the top 5 standard unit ice backups I would go for. Huh. The 3 armor is great. Quistis is fantastic. Locke is fantastic, obviously. We're really trying to ramp our backups quickly. This one's just yeah, it's a very interesting one. Like it is really good on damage 3. Although like a lot of times on damage 3, if they see you're on ice, they can junk their hand, so you don't really get the same kind of value. This has got me curious now. Filter, ice, backup, 2 cost, job. It's like I know juggler, like bard is really solid. I really like even like the Cheetah leader is really good. Hmm. This bard can be really obnoxious for some decks that just won't ever be able to attack with a 2 cost potentially. This Numo does. I mean, you don't want to break your backups in the deck, so like that probably rules that one out. Hmm. This would be kind of a funny tech, but I don't think it's really what you're looking for. Like this black mage could be really nice, just to kind of get some summon recursion in if you need like a specific summon back. Arcanist, absolutely, I would play over that, especially if you're trying to like slow the game down, slow the game down, slow the game down. And if you get a 3 cost, I mean, red mage is fantastic, cheetah leader's great. Scholar has uses. Um, hmm. Yeah, that is a very. It's interesting. I'd be curious how that was for them. Another mono water list. We have the 1 copy of Siren here. I really like that. Like, even on a deck with this many forwards, it's not that likely that you're gonna block, like that they're gonna whiff, like, but like it's enough. Everything else looks pretty standard here. So again, mono water is just so big in Europe. Gosh. Again, how do you have room for all this? The Cecil, 1 copy of the Demon. We still have room. We have room for a wall randomly in here. We're on a full 3 copies of this arc. Like, what's getting shaved? We don't have any Terras. Our summons took a massive shrink because we don't have the Kakellans, only 2 Kusith, 2 Mist Dragons. We have room for 1 Thornton in our backups. Over where that's where I play my Barts. So like our backups are actually pretty normal. 2 Ferris, 2 Zidane. I like that. But like man, 2 for Melda. Like yeah, so we shave 5 summons to put some extra stuff into our forwards. I mean, this wall is really strong, like admittedly. It does a really good job of like potentially accelerating the refia into like finding a Lunith off the top early. You can even like discard a Lunith, and then when this dies, this doesn't revive a forward; it revives anything. So this can bring back a backup potentially if you need to. It can revive Refia or Ferris to kind of start your chain for you. Like if you just like play it, you get a search, and then you get to like chump block with it, and then like when it dies, it does something. Like it's a really strong card. Fremelda's interesting. We're only on the like I would expect like a second Shantoto if we're on Fremelda just to make it a little easier to turn on. I mean, it's a really strong card, obviously, so I get that. Especially with like the Cecil to protect it, like Cecil plus Fremelda if Fremelda is online is really really good. Huh. We have another chaos list. This is an ice chaos list. Playing crap like Buckaboo. Um, Again, we're really heavy on backups here, which is surprising. Like the 1 Iodolus, we have the 3. We made room for 3 Lenas. We're still on 1 Lufenian, which to me, I've always seen Lufenian as like a 3 or 0 card to make it like more likely to draw early. But it's like okay at 1, I guess. If you draw it, you play it. If you don't draw it, you don't play it. We've stacked up on 2 costs to make our Ezel search, but again, we're on just 2 Ezel. To make room for like Reeve. We have our Astinian. We're like really low on water actually. 15 water cards, the 1 Ultimecia, the 3 Lightning, the 3 Warrior of Light, the 3 Lena. That's why we're down on Ezel. I'd be worried about getting the Larsa, the Ezel, or the Lena into play with these ratios a little bit. Pisca Demon's also like a really uncommon one to see. Jumbo Flan, you see these a lot in like ice builds of Chaos to enable the Gilgamesh. Just like a decent way to help push for lethal. Your opponent kind of has to always respect it, and then like much like the Blue Worm, should just cash it out for a point of damage eventually. Interesting. And then a pretty standard mono water. This one is on the. It's on 2 copies of Marlboro even. 2 of everything. Really surprised to see the 2 raw, honestly. And 2 ash. It's really uncommon. Alright. I think it's just these 3 left. Let's take a couple more peeks here. This looks like a Gigawall list. Maybe there was a Gigawall. I was wrong. Surprising to see the 1 copy of Onion Knight. It is nice to have for the Sarah FFL. You can like search this, and then that gives you access to Cloud if you need to in specific matchups. I really like playing this card at 3 a lot of the time, and especially like there are builds of Gigawall that used to play Refia, and in those builds, this card is actually quite good because it was another Warrior of Light for you. Backups, the Gita Leader, Humans, give us draws off of Gigawall. I love that. I think that's really, really strong. The Gestalten Empire Sid gets us Setzer or Mog. We're really in on Mog. Which is, I mean, it's really good with the Tyvis as well. Like, we have a lot of reasons to play it. I'm still surprised to see it. Like, it's one of the forwards at 3, but I definitely understand it. We just need enough water. We're actually on 3 Lena as well. That's not necessarily standard. 2 Larsa. We have 1 copy of the Flip Uke. Guarantees a hit of Warrior of Light, doesn't it? Yeah. The 1 copy of Moody, get access to our Amaterasu. Notably, we don't really have an out, or convincing out to a Sid Randell. I think the only one that we have is Axstar. Because we can't even generate crystals for Cyan without an entry. And getting we could hardcast our Axstar. That helps a lot. I guess Ferris with the Onion Knight on field, or if Elena will do it as well, but that's a lot of resources committed. But they simply just won't have it, which most decks aren't these days anyway. This is, I believe, the same. No, it's actually different. Okay, so we have 2 copies of the demon here in Refia control. No Clara, so this is trying to play just a bunch of Warrior of Light backups. We did shave our backups down to 18. Is that what I was on? I think I was on 19. Went 2-2-2, 3-3. 3 copies of this Ifrit, which, like, I would point to this Ifrit as like a reason that Chaos is not a deck that should be in the format. Like, this should not be in the deck for an EX burst. It is because it's like the only fire EX burst that kills either the disciplinary committee members or Chaos. This card is putrid, though. Like, it's so bad. It might as well be a 7 CP Odin at this point. I mean, it's 7 CP Odin that's basically in Fire's colors, but like, Steve and I forget the name of the person from the Serum Cactus, but they have a video where they discuss like the cards, like 3 cards of each element that they would remove. They talk about Brynhildr, and it's like, yeah, like I sort of get where Steve's coming from with Brynhildr, but like part of the problem is removal in this game really is very underpowered. Like, this Ifrit is, it's the only way to kill a 9k off of an EX burst in Fire, and it's such a bad card. Like, you would feel so bad casting this. And we're on 3 copies of it because we were trying to stack EX burst to the point where we've gone down on Amaterasu, Mist Dragon, and Kusith. Which, like I'm sure it came up and mattered. Like it's good for that. Like it's a good hit off of Linafreya potentially, but man, does that like feel so bad. I would probably swap these for Brynhilders personally if I was to play a deck like or to play this deck. Um, and this is like a 4-color from Melda control. Yeah, it's like a. This is like what I. So you hear me call refia decks refia control, and then the reason why is because there used to be a deck that was just 4-color good stuff, and I people used to call that like 4 colors. There was like the Warrior of Light deck that like wasn't all in on refia in the same way. Like you wouldn't play Warrior of Light backups. This is more like that 4-color good stuff slurry. Claris, King Tycoon, Lena, Vivi as a fire backup is an interesting one. I feel like one copy of Edgar would actually feel really nice here. Um, 2 Shantoto. Shantoto with Formelda obviously is really strong. This is Stola, I think, is a really slept on card. Really, really good. Um, 2 copies of Cecil, so we can cheat in our Warrior of Light or a Clive. 3 Ifrit, 3 Clive, 1 Demon. I really like this actually. Like for a 4-color good stuff, like this is very low to the ground, but that's not a bad thing. We're on 27 bursts. We have the firepower to win potentially between the Formelda, the Warrior of Light. We have the Arc to make sure that we're winning combat over other Warrior of Light decks. Um, yeah, no, this is really cool. I like this. Uh, yeah, Europe's meta, like I said, definitely very different from North America or Oceania or Japan. So don't necessarily, I think, take these straight to locals without kind of determining if this is a good list for the metagame that you're going to be playing. But like, big congrats to Jonathan for finding a pretty unique mono wind or mono water deck. Actually, like I really would not expect to see like a Dion Bahamut doing this well, especially in like mono water. Like I would expect like an Earth in there to like maybe like special more with the Dions, but yeah, like major props. Uh, that's about all I've got though. Thanks for watching. I'll see y'all in the next one.